Welcome to Huda's Career Info. I am your host Huda, and this is the channel for everyone seeking knowledge about career services. My guest today, Mark Franklin, is a very busy professional. Mark leads the team at CareerCycles, a career management social enterprise that has helped over 5,000 people manage their careers. Mark also co-founded a startup, OneLifeTools, through which he co-authored the Who You Are Matters game and most recently launched the Conversations Matter virtual experience. Mark teaches career management at the University of Toronto. In 2015, he received the Stu Conger Award for leadership in career development. Mark consulted with hundreds of organizations in his earlier engineering career. Switching careers, he earned a master's in counseling psychology and led student services initiatives in two of Canada's largest universities. Mark is always seeking ways to unlock the power of storytelling, and so he hosts the Career Buzz radio show and podcast, showcasing inspiring career stories. His insights appear on CBC, GlobalNews, Globe and Mail, and National Post. And today, he is on Huda's Career Info, and I cannot wait to hear his insights about career development. Thank you, Mark Franklin, for joining me today and for agreeing to be part of this interview. I am very excited to have you on board, and I have many questions for you. So I'm going to start right away with the reason I connected with you is because I want to raise awareness about the value of career literacy. Career literacy is a term I did not coin, although I wish I did. But I am curious, how does Mark define career literacy?
Great, thanks, Hoda, and thanks so much for hosting me here on your series. I really appreciate the opportunity. And you know, career literacy has the word career in it, and it's a funny word. And, you know, so many people have different ideas about what that word means. So we've actually taken some time to be very particular about a holistic definition of the word career. So before I say what I think career literacy is, I'd like to say, here's what I think career is. And I'm going to share screen here just to give you a sense of this definition. So on our CareerCycles website, we have a definition that we've provided here of what career means. Your career is really the full expression of who you are and how you want to be in the world. So full expression means, you know, go beyond job and think about life and volunteer and learning. Who you are is your personal qualities, your strengths, your desires, the influences of other people. How you want to be in the world, which is interesting because many people, when they deal with career challenges, career aches and pains, they think about what they don't want. But this is about what you do want on the flip side of that. And in the world is where your deepest wishes meet your daily reality. And your career keeps on expanding as it naturally goes through cycles of stability and change. So expanding means even, you know, it's this upward spiral. And even if you didn't like something that you did in your career, you still learn, you know, if you lose, don't lose the lesson. So, you know, it's always expanding and it does naturally go through cycles. We know it's nonlinear. Everybody is talking about career as nonlinear. That I think we all agree on now. So think about circles and cycles and spirals rather than that linear study, work, retire line. And cycles of stability and change. Nobody knows how long stability is. We've gone through a pandemic and things have changed radically because of that. And so there are these cycles of stability and change can either be generated by the outside world, by events or by people or by your company saying, hey, it's time to move on, or by you yourself. And you can be much more intentional about that. So with that definition as a background, I would say that career literacy is the capacity to make good choices, well-informed choices about your career when the career is really this, about how you want to be in the world, your best, of course, of action for the time being, and having the capacity to do that in an intentional way, and doing so with a positive mindset. And we've been using this phrase, the heroic G mindset, and it's an acronym. H for hope, E for efficacy or confidence, R for resilience, to bounce back from setbacks, O for optimism, believing that your future is better than your present, I for intentionality and intentional exploration, and C for curiosity and clarity, and the G, heroic G, for the growth mindset from the work of Carol Dweck, and the idea of having a growth mindset. So, having the capacity to make well-informed and inspiring choices in your career using the definition I've shared with a heroic G mindset would be career literacy.
Wow, this is so beautiful. I absolutely love it. I just, there's so much information in it. So much is so loaded, but I like the focus on the heroic G, and the soft skills really is what they are. It's just bouncing back and the growth mindset. It's all important, all of it together, not just focusing on one. Like when I think of career, I think, okay, many people tell me that it's just the next job. Okay, what am I going to do? And I keep saying, no, it's a journey. Like it's your journey, and there's ups and downs. And like you said, it's not linear anymore. But this is very cool and very informative. Lots to think about just within that statement that you have read. The definition of career in of itself, absolutely.
Yeah,
so I'm glad you talked about CareerCycles, because that was going to be my next question. You founded CareerCycles 20 years ago, I believe. I Googled on the website. And so what prompted you to start it 20 years ago? The career field was young at that point. And how does it continue to differentiate itself? I mean, obviously with that definition, you've already differentiated, but can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Thanks, Hoda. Everybody has a story, and people often ask me, how did I move from engineering to career development? So my first career was in engineering. I'm a professional licensed engineer. And 10 years into my career, I went back to school to do a master's in counseling psychology. And I can tell you, I was the only engineer in the counseling psychology department, but it was interesting to have a collision of two very different ideas, from the engineering and systems mindset, and then to the career development world, or counseling world, where people had great hearts and empathy and communication skills, which engineers aren't known for. But blending those two has really resulted in what CareerCycles has come to be. So, when I started working with clients in two big universities, I started to realize that stories, listening to clients' stories, was really what it was all about, and helping them identify their strengths, their personal qualities, their desires, their influences of other people from their stories. And I slowly developed what is now a narrative methodology that is used by well over 1,500 people, helping professionals all over Canada and the United States and globally. And when I started CareerCycles, it was a one-man show. It was a practice that I ran in parallel while I was working in two big universities in their student services. And slowly but surely, I built up a private practice, and many of your listeners might be interested in how that works, where you have an institutional job, and it was 3 days a week at the institutional job and 2 days a week in the practice, and then it went to 2 and 3, and then it went to 1 and 4. And then finally, I stepped away from the institution to run the practice, and I've grown it, and over time, we've had something like 15 different associates. I'm all using this narrative method, right? So this story of transition and identifying transferable skills. For me, it was the systems thinking and the structured problem solving from the engineering world that I brought into the career development world. And over time, using that mindset, I developed a narrative assessment system. And at its most basic, it starts with clients' questions, and then there's a clarification process through stories to generate clarity of strengths and desires and so on. And then using the output of that into an intentional exploration process that might involve job search. And a deeper version of this is a roadmap that we've been using. And this roadmap, along with the career definition I shared earlier, is something that we share with all our clients at CareerCycles. It helps them understand how to become empowered and proactive in their career and life choices. Everybody has that question about what's next, and they want to make good choices moving forward. And there's the cycles, the life and career cycles of stability and change. And moving from questions to choices in this framework is a two-step process. There's a clarification step of using stories and anecdotes and experiences and gleaning from them desires and strengths and interests and personal qualities and assets and influences of others, and generating possibilities from those stories, then prioritizing them into an intentional exploration process where people watch for clues. Why would you like that career? What does the labor market say? And in fact, watch for clues is a much different and attractive framing for labor market information, which everybody knows is the most boring 3 words in the English language. But if you wrap it around somebody as clues, and then taking inspired action to explore those possibilities and being open to opportunities, and this whole vortex of intentional exploration leads people to make good choices. And along the way, we use some tools, a sketch, a statement, and an exploration plan. And when we have clients at CareerCycles, we use this narrative approach based on the framework I'm sharing now. What's great about this framework is that we have now tested it with thousands of people. We've conducted outcome studies that are published in our sister company here, OneLifeTools, and people might be interested to see peer-reviewed journal articles showing the effectiveness of this narrative methodology. So here's the most recent one that I published with Mike Stebleton from the University of Minnesota, where we talk about the outcomes of a single session. Just one session of a narrative approach using that framework gives people a sense of hope, efficacy, of resilience, optimism, to move forward with confidence. We have more outcome studies, and we've even embedded this now in many different courses and programs. I teach a course at the University of Toronto, and Mike Stebleton here interviewed the students to show the effectiveness of this methodology on a whole classroom, a whole cohort of people. So really CareerCycles is a wonderful group of talented career professionals. We all use this narrative methodology since 2001, as you said, Hoda, it's been a while. And over time, I've had a number of different associates come and go, but this is the present wonderful team with Angie and Jane and Carrie and Penny and Jennifer. And we have a few extra team members when we work. For instance, we have a project with military spouses right now across the country. And we have a Francophone member of our team, Carol Theriault, who works with Francophone military spouses to help them in their careers. And so we use this narrative methodology. We've helped over 5,000 clients become empowered and proactive in their career and life choices. And it's been quite a fun ride, not only partnering with all of these wonderful people, but also stepping up now and trying to share this methodology with many other helping professionals through OneLifeTools, and sharing that with Rich Feller, who's been just a great team member based in the US from Colorado State University. And the two of us have been now sharing this methodology with over 1,500 people have taken our training. So in another way, CareerCycles, Rich always says this, is like a laboratory for OneLifeTools, because I can take any of the ideas that we come up with at OneLifeTools, teach the team how to use it, and then implement those tools with individuals and with groups, and have a chance to try it out before we spread it out and share it with many other helping professionals.
Oh, thank you so much for elaborating on this. Yes, CareerCycles is a very interesting for me, because I work with gifted students, and this having multiple interests, I think the narrative coaching method really works for them, in order to tell them, yes, you can have two potential career path that you can take, and that's okay. And your background is a good example of how you started engineering, and then when you went to the counseling program. And I just wanted to confirm that all the cycles you shared are available free online for people on the website of CareerCycles, or these
Yeah, I mean,
two
if
cycles?
if you're asking about like the definition and the resources that we have here, people can have a look at. We have an overview of the narrative system here, and and a good description of the kinds of individuals who we tend to work with, right? So I'll just bring your attention here. I mean, now that we've worked with over 5,000 people, we find that there's a really big range of needs. So from school to work needs, from this Alexis's story here, from first job to meaningful work, we find is so common. People in their 20s and 30s, and they've had one or two jobs and are now looking to pivot to something more meaningful. That's a really big need we find that we serve. Midlife disengagement to re-engagement, people who have taken time out of the world of work, like military spouses or parents who have taken parental leave. People thinking about the transition in later life and later career. With the demographics in North America, there are many people in their 50s and 60s asking, what is my next adventure? And then, after the pandemic, people have had much disruption in their career and employment. And if you've stepped away from the world of work, getting back in is a real key to it, and learning how to go from frustration to relief as you move forward. So lots of free resources here, both on the CareerCycles site and on the OneLifeTools site.
All right, that's perfect. Thanks, Mark. So I'm just going to pivot away from your work just to get your opinion on what's been happening in the career field in the past 20 years. Many changes have happened. One of the new proposed changes is that the Canadian Career Development Foundation, the CCDF, is looking to unify everyone in Canada under one national certification system. I'm curious, what are your thoughts about these changes, this one or any other changes that you've seen happen? And are there any changes you're hoping would happen but haven't happened yet?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I mean, having the public trust career professionals, having the public know about us in the first place and trust us is really important. And, in Canada and many other jurisdictions, we have regulated professions. I'm actually a member of a regulated profession, and it's province by province pretty much in this country for the regulated profession. So for instance, I have a license with Professional Engineers Ontario. That's a provincial regulator, and they help improve trust in the public for engineering services, right? Now we have many provincial career development associations, and those career development associations are, they're working, doing things in each province. Moving it up a level to a national certification makes sense to me because it streamlines activity. But even beyond that, there are national or international certifications. So I take, for example, ICF, International Coach Federation, and they've done a very good job at kind of presenting the brand of the coach out to the world. And they have levels of coaching certification that provides an international level. So, we do have the International Career Certification Institute. And I actually got that certification. There's a certification called CMF, right? A Career Management Fellow, CMF, from the Institute for the International Career Certification Institute. I like the idea of getting it larger. Even international would be valuable. National, I think, is a good step beyond the provincial step to give, again, the public some clarity about the profession and help them build trust. Because right now, when the phone rings and Jennifer answers the phone and people say, hey, I've heard of CareerCycles, how can you help me? Just like you said, Hoda, at the beginning, people don't know what we do. They either think that we fix your resume or we give you some tests to tell you whether you should be a potato farmer or a vending machine replenisher, and they don't know much else between those two things. And yet, we are here across Canada and available, and anything that's going to elevate the brand of career career professionals in the eyes of the public, of institutions, of government is going to be very helpful. So I'm encouraged by it. I like looking at the international one, right, and taking a page out of the book from ICF or the ICCI, is the Career Certifying International Organization.
Yes, I love what you said, and I'm total agreement with you. It is time for people to know what we do and the services we offer in a clearer way. As a career coach, I believe in the value of what I think of as the soft skills of connecting, reflecting, and engaging for personal and for career growth. So this is part of what I pass to my clients as well. But part of your many involvements, so you have mentioned the OneLifeTools organization that you co-founded with Dr. Feller, and you recently launched Conversations Matter, a virtual program that promises to facilitate these skills that are dear to my heart that I think are really important, which is, again, connecting, reflecting, and engaging. So I'm going to ask you a few questions about this, and then you choose how you want to answer them. So can you tell us a little bit about OneLifeTools? You've kind of started, but elaborate if you like, but also a little bit more about the virtual program, Conversations Matter. And I picked something from your website. So how does all of this, again, it's from the OneLifeTools website, relates to the mission statement of OneLifeTools, enriching the career well-being of humanity. I love this, so I have to mention it for people to go check out. It's a cool mission statement. So how does it all connect together?
Yeah, thanks. I'm an idealist, of a visionary kind of personality. I like ideas, and so that idea of enriching the career well-being of humanity just sounded like such a grand vision. Career well-being you see as a term. Gallup came out with their list of well-being factors, right? And they talked about physical well-being and emotional well-being and financial well-being and career well-being. And they identified career well-being as the most important one, because if you didn't have that, a lot of the other pieces wouldn't really work in your life. And so I really like the term career well-being, and enriching the career well-being of humanity just seemed like a really great vision statement. So, visions are supposed to be aspirational. So we're working towards that. And at OneLifeTools, like Rich and I and our team, we have a wonderful team, including Lucy and our programmer Rupal and Yukati. And, we've been trying to put the power of story and storytelling into the hands of helping professionals. And so while CareerCycles serves individuals and organizations, and we serve, people who have a career need, OneLifeTools in turn is trying to help the helping professionals. So the counselors and coaches and therapists and social workers and even managers in the workplace are all trying to support and encourage the career well-being of their clients and students and employees and everybody. And so that's the purpose of OneLifeTools, to put practical tools based on an evidence-based narrative method into the hands of helping professionals. One of the things that Rich and I started to really work on was a board game called Who You Are Matters. And Who You Are Matters is this wonderful game that builds on the framework, and 4 people sit around a table, and you have these excellent structured conversations that result in this clarification statement. And 60 minutes or 90 minutes or whatever it was. And we were doing really well with this game. And some of your listeners may have had a chance to play it or use it. And I'd encourage people, we have some videos here. But then the pandemic came. And suddenly you could not have, 4 people sitting around a table times 20, there's 80 people. Like we've had 80 and 100 and 200 and 300 people playing the game all at once. But the pandemic, of course, upended everybody's lives, and it upended our life. And so we said, how could you play this game experience virtually? How could you deal with Zoom, which is what we're on right now, Hoda? And how could you create the simulated experience with groups of 4 people wherever they are? We would run this game, for instance, in our office in Toronto once a month, and we would get 15 or 20 people come and they would play and it would be fun. Now we do Conversations Matter weekly, and we might have 20 people, but they're coming from Vancouver and Halifax and from Colorado. And, we just did an event today. We had somebody from the United Kingdom, and last week we had somebody from Singapore, and you can just come from everywhere. So Conversations Matter was actually a direct result of the pandemic. It is a way for groups of people to connect, reflect, and engage. It's useful both for team building in the workplace and for personal and career growth. It uses the same framework as the game, where people go into breakout rooms and share in a very structured way a little bit about their personal qualities and strengths and desires. And they use these micro narratives, right? So I call them micro narratives, 30 seconds, but it's very structured. So, it's very easy. People find it fun and easy to do. And it becomes an experience where people can say things like, we've had a lot of people experience this now. And I like what, here I wanted to find one person who said she had this word magical. And I think that's here, Diane Kershaw from SFU, it made the experience magical. And so there's something about, especially during the pandemic when we're isolated and separated and working from home, to bring people together in meaningful ways. And so this is a really cool tool that people can learn how to facilitate. And what's really amazing is the event prep that they do brings them onto this narrative platform we call Online Storyteller. So behind the scenes, when you do the event prep, you don't really know what's going on, but you're saving the data of your personal qualities and strengths and so on. And what happens is all of those go into this narrative methodology, which I'm showing you here on our story platform. And so when people add stories and they want to reflect on a past job or work experience, and they start answering questions, they have the chance then to really do this engaging experience. And I'll just show you how that works really briefly. People have a question, what am I going to do next? They add a story, and they can reflect on many stories. And a story here is an example, manager at Brighton. So let's say somebody was a manager at Brighton's. Then we're not asking them to write an essay, right? Just very briefly, they get asked quick questions. What skills or knowledge did you enjoy using? Oh, influencing others and customer service. In addition to skills and knowledge, what else did you like about this? Oh, I liked an opportunity to advance and good location. And all of that comes into this sketch. So I think one of the central innovations is to take a story, whatever it is, a volunteer story, a travel story, a work story, a project, and break it down into its individual desires and strengths and personal qualities, and have it populate a sketch. So it aggregates everything. When you do Conversations Matter, the same thing. The cards that you select build this sketch. People love this. They love seeing that their story has translated into this one sketch. So it's not the nice counselor writing down a lot of notes on her or his paper, but it's something that is visible to the client. If we use this with a client, we share the screen, they can see their sketch appear as they go through it. And they find that there's patterns to their desires, to their skills and strengths. And the patterns, together with feedback from the outside world that they could get from allies to feed that sketch, gives them a much more complete statement. We call this a clarification statement. We've had 5,000 people write these statements. Unlike a resume or a LinkedIn profile, which looks backwards, it's present and future oriented. It opens you to change. And then it supports people to explore those possibilities one at a time by noticing clues. Remember, I showed you the model earlier, and taking inspired action. So it's an approach that people use now, and we have many organizational clients using this. And I would bring people's attention to these success stories in the US at the University of Colorado, in Ontario, the region of Peel, private practitioners, and I would really bring people's attention to SFU out in the Lower Mainland and St. Mary's in Halifax, where the team uses this with their clients in pretty much the way I've just described, so that they have a chance, just to bring it all around, to enrich the career well-being of humanity.
I love this tool. Like, I still use the old-fashioned portfolio where I get my clients together, everything in a portfolio, whether it's online or paper or hard copies of everything you mentioned. But it's cool to have that platform that brings it together and brings it out to the forefront, rather than have them having a flip through portfolio to see, okay, I did this job and I hated it, but I did this and I loved it. So this is a very, very cool program to have, something definitely to think about for career coaches. So thank you for sharing that. You mentioned the career statement, and when I went on the about page of the CareerCycles website, I noticed your career statement. And to me, now that all the dots are connected for everyone listening, your career statement is cool. And I thought everyone should just go and try to emulate Mark's career statement and try to figure out their desires, their strengths, and their assets. Among, I think there's two more, but it's a very cool statement. Everyone just listening should just go and try to fill it up yourself, and then see if you can get access to conversation. Is this part of the Conversations Matter tool, or is that? Yes, it's the result, right?
You know, the Conversations Matter experience just kind of starts things off. And so, you know, it's like, for career development, we really need to engage people. And I think we're all learning slowly but surely the need to engage people. And so, you know, I'll just share this with you. We just tried this out today. We had a group, and what we're trying to do is get people to have this Conversations Matter experience, and then to learn how to facilitate it. Anybody can do it, whether you're a coach or a counselor, or you want to do it with your family. And they can learn to facilitate the game or the virtual event. We're calling it the Who You Are Matters virtual event, but it's also Conversations Matter. That's just the starting point, you know, but then to get into a program, we further help people then learn about it, and they can do the learning program, the level 1 learning program, whether you work with groups or individuals, so that you can really use this narrative assessment approach for individuals or for groups. And then finally, for those who want to go deeper, and many have done this holistic narrative career professional certification, people can now use the evidence-based narrative counseling approach with 40 interventions and integrate that platform into other tools. So we've tried to make it simple and break it down into 3 things. One is the Conversations Matter, or Who You Are Matters experience, which is just a kind of doorway, and then the program, and then the Go Deep, basically the counseling methodology. So we've kind of broken it up into those 3 parts, just to make it easier for people to both understand what we're doing and then learn it in appropriate chunks.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. But I'm going to take you back to your statement and talk about your interest, or perhaps it's a passion for cycling. I'm curious about, how has your passion for cycling affected your career growth and your movement within 2 fields? But also, because I am a linguist, I was curious, is it a coincidence, or did cycling affect your naming of your organization, CareerCycles?
Yeah, thanks. You know, yes, both. You know, when I started the whole thing in 2001, I actually started by taking people on retreats. And, you know, I had already been leading trips for another big organization called Backroads. And that was near the beginning of my career development career. And I realized, leading these trips, that wouldn't it be great, I thought, to combine both the career reflection that so many people want with some sort of physical activity and cycling. And I loved cycling. And so before CareerCycles, the practice, there was CareerCycles, the retreat. And I was looking for a name for this retreat, and it was going to involve cycling. And I'm an avid cyclist since childhood. And as soon as I thought of the word cycles, I loved it, because of course it's cycling, like bicycles, and it's the cycles of your life, and it's cycles of nature, and the cycles of the season. And, you know, that spiral that we talk about is so important. And, you know, those retreats, I led about 20 of those retreats. I started if anybody knows Ontario, the Prince Edward County area of Ontario is where I started. I've subsequently led trips in Cuba and Nicaragua, but we started in Prince Edward County, and I needed a retreat name. And so the word CareerCycles came from that idea. I need to call it something. And I loved it. And then the practice developed from the retreats. And so now, not only has cycling been an interest, which you can find here on my natural interests, but I've used it both in advocacy. So I've volunteered for the cycling advocacy group in my city, and I was on the board of it, in fact. I was an executive on the board. And so cycling has also taught me some transferable skills about making change in cities, which is not an easy thing to do. And I've integrated it into these trips. So the cycle touring, which I really love to do, has turned into trips that I've led, in these three countries, in Ontario, and then in Cuba and Nicaragua. So the cycling, has that both and, right? It's the bicycling, which I still love to do. I was out for a ride this morning, even in the rain, for a little exercise. But I think, back to our definition, it's the cycles of nature, the cycles of the seasons, right? And we sometimes talk about our lives in the cycles of seasons and the cycles of nature. There's nothing like, riding your bike through, the beauty of Prince Edward County and seeing clouds of yellow butterflies fly up in front of you while you're reflecting on your life and your career, having organized conversations and then time to sit back and reflect to see, how can I best manifest the full expression of who I am and who I want to be in the world, and doing that from, inspiration from nature. I can't think of a better way.
Well, I love how you cycle back. And absolutely, your story just signifies to me and to my clients, I hope they're watching, how your interests also can influence what you do in life, because there's that common belief in that, well, if I'm interested in something as a fun hobby, I cannot really incorporate it into my job. But your life cycle or your career statement absolutely shows us that we can do that. So these are all the questions I had for you today, Mark, and I appreciate your time. Was there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, if people are interested, two things. One, we have this podcast, we've been doing it for years now, called Career Buzz. It's a broadcast radio show, but also a podcast. This is the best free resource I can think of. You type in anything you want to learn about being an engineer or being anybody, and I have interviewed 500 people. Like you, I really conducted a lot of interviews, and you can hear people's stories and learn from their experiences by hearing their stories. So we have this. You can subscribe to Career Buzz on any of your favorite podcast apps, or you can listen right here by clicking the podcast link at CareerCycles.com. And the other thing for your listeners, if they're thinking about integrating any of these ideas into programs, either the programs you run in an agency or a class that you run at a college or university, I think that the world is ready for, plug and play structured approaches to evidence-based career development. And to integrate that into programs and services is a really effective way to scale you up, right? Working one-on-one is lovely. I've worked with so many clients one-on-one. I've cherished every client that I've worked with. Many of us now are at the point where we're trying to now help others scale up. And I know you're doing that, Hoda, through these videos. So if anybody listening is interested in that, please speak to us about it, because we've now got a lot of experience integrating these tools with thousands of students or clients or individuals, so that you can in turn bring the career development message that is so important in our uncertain times to as many people as possible. So thanks, Hoda, for the opportunity to speak today with you.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Wow. Whether you are a job seeker or a career coach, Mark provided us with so much to think about. I hope you enjoyed this episode and learning about Mark Franklin's multiple involvements. You can connect with Mark on CareerCycles or OneLifeTools websites or on LinkedIn using the links in the comments section. I am your host, Hoda, and until next time, keep moving forward.